Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Gerry, as I tend to be. Joining us today on the show, we've got Terry, and we also have Thomas, who has joined us for the first time in a while. So, Terry, I feel like I see you, me and you are like, twice a week buddies now. But Thomas, it's been a while, man. You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I am surviving, my friend. So guys, Saturday was a weird one for this extra time segment. Saturday was a weird one because I lost 3-1. However, I didn't walk away thinking, oh wow, Everton, that was the saddest thing I've ever seen. I was not like angry the way I've been over some of our other recent losses, So let's start with Thomas, because it's been a little while. Thomas, how do you think we did? I'm just going to start with how we do.
I think in comparison to the past games, obviously Sheffield United and Bournemouth, much more exciting to watch, much more interesting. We showed a lot more attacking threat, but as much as that's good to see, that hasn't really been our problem recently. It's breaking down the teams that are going to defend. So when City were attacking and then we were countering, that's when we looked at our best. So as good as it was of a performance, and obviously we didn't get the win, I'm sure Terry can go into a lot of details about people he's argued with on Twitter about the performance and the reaction to that. But kind of, on a whole, we showed good attacking football because City were kind of open at the back. I think that game suits us a lot more than kind of playing the defence teams, because we don't really have a clue how to break defensive teams down. But overall, in isolation, it was a good performance for me.
It's a similar kind of situation. When we're playing a team whose style allows us some, opportunity, we usually end up getting some shots on goal. Which that did happen for us on Saturday. However, City ended up basically just scoring more than we did. They capitalized. Ederson made some good saves. He did. I think we could have made him work a little harder by putting some of our chances on goal, more to the corners. We did sort of put him a little bit central, a little too often. But at the same time, we had opportunities. Terry, how are you feeling? Terry's just, a lot of people are not, they're wanting to argue with the Terry lately, and I am shocked and appalled at people wanting to get into a little bit of Twitter fisticuffs with this gentleman. So Terry, we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But let's just start with how you felt like we played.
I thought we played well, to a point. It wasn't an amazing performance, but I thought we were really unfortunate. On a different day, Ederson doesn't stop that Calvert-Lewin shot with his knee, and he doesn't make that save from Gerry Mina's header off a corner, and we've got 3 goals. It's just one of those things where the luck went against us at the key times, and when that ball hits the bar off, I think it was Sterling, and bounces down, it goes over the line and back out. And another day it might have not crossed the line, and we get away with it. It's just, I think, you touched on it there, the sort of Twitter reaction. I think the main thing is that no one really looked at the game in isolation, which I can understand. Everyone sort of looked at it as the latest defeat in a long list of defeats. I don't think anyone would have had such a problem with us losing a close, well contested game with Manchester City if we'd have beaten Aston Villa and beaten Sheffield United or got some out of Bournemouth. It's a sort of culmination of what has been some very frustrating, very poor performances, and then we turn it on against a much better team, and it's all for naught because they're a much better team. I think that's people's main problem, that there's no point playing really well and losing to a top team. Play really well against the lesser teams and beat them, and you get more for it. There's no points for giving City a game, and I think that's what people are upset by. But I just think in isolation, you can't be too angry at the team for for the performance they put in. It was, as I say, we've seen Everton play better. We've seen us play a lot worse. We gave what I believe is the best team in the world a really good game, and we're unfortunate not to get something out of it.
Yeah. I hesitate to have all this conversation just yet because I feel like it's going to spill into the Marco Silva conversation in the next segment. So I don't want to get too much into detail of the whole, being able to, for some folks, improvement is a good thing despite the result. And for some folks, it's very clear cut. If you lose, you're not supposed to be happy. Period. You're not supposed. There isn't a bright side to it. It's a loss, so that's the way it is. So I mean, there's a couple of different, and I think it's there. Neither one is a completely irrational viewpoint. You know what I mean? There's you can understand the argument behind both of those. But at the same time, it's just, it really depends on the type of person you are. It depends on circumstances. You may be in a more agitated point in your life where, you really need football to kind of come through for you. And if Everton's not, then you're like, what is wrong with the universe? You know what I mean? It's like, so, yeah. I don't know. I was one of those who, when I finished watching, I'd watch the whole thing with my 7-year-old Bennett, and I looked over him when I was over. I was like, well, I hate we lost, but it wasn't bad looking football.
I think at the start of the game, there was times when De Bruyne and Mahrez were linking up down the right-hand side, and I thought we could be heading for a 6 or 7-0. We could be the next Watford at times. So to come from that and then actually put up a performance. There's been so many people on Twitter this week saying that's a championship club mentality, put this, that. The level that Manchester City are at is far beyond what I've ever personally seen and what I think a lot of people have ever seen really in the Premier League. Like, the quality that they are producing at the moment, the players that they have, like seeing like at the start of the game where Mina cleared it straight to Mahrez, and then on the half volley he did the outside of the foot cross into Gundogan, who then hit the bar. It's quality like that which we don't have, and we can't really expect to have, because they are a team beyond what can we expect. And there's a classic argument of we spend so much money. That's ridiculous. To be able to do that, we're never going to be able to buy players who are instantly going to be able to do that. And at the end of the day, we put up a performance where we attacked, they attacked. Their ability is just beyond ours, and that's kind of what we've got to accept. You can talk about breaking into the top 6, but that's got to come against the teams lower down the table, and we've got to pick up points against them, because at the end of the day, when you're playing teams like Manchester City, and as much as I hate to say it, to play Liverpool, the quality that they have is just beyond the rest of the league. Against teams like United, Chelsea, Arsenal, you stand a chance against them because their quality's not all the way up there. They're nowhere near the level that City and Liverpool have kind of broken into in the past season and a bit. But basically, we went against what I believe is the best team in Europe on Saturday evening, and we attacked them. We didn't look scared to go out and attack them, because there's so many teams who have just sat there and gone, we're going to shut up shop here and hope we don't get whipped 5-0 here, and we hope for the goal difference. What we did, we played a game, we gave the fans something to shout about at least, and I'd much rather we went and attacked them and lost 3-1 than sit there and inevitably lose, because City do have the ability to break teams down. They're an unbelievable team, and they can break down a team who is just going to sit and defend. We don't have that ability right now, and we were just beaten by a ridiculously good team. Like, I'm not, Gerry, you won't have seen them like in real life yet, but like the Manchester City team, when you see them in person, they are a ridiculously good team, and there's no chance I'm not saying there's no chance we could have beat them. I think when you come up against a team like that, it is the luck, like Terry was saying. It is the Sterling hitting the bar, Edison having an unbelievable game. It is, you do have to rely on that, as much as people don't want to accept that, we're not Manchester City. We don't have incredible quality players, but we were just beaten by a good team, a very, very good team on Saturday.
One of the things about City is they create a lot of chances, but it's not just, the fact that they're creating chances. We're talking about high quality chances. All right, they cash in on a lot of their chances because they're closer. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was a Total Soccer Show here in America, and they were talking about the quality, the reason City's quality of chances are just better than Liverpool's. They're closer than Liverpool's, which is interesting. So they end up like scoring more of their chances than Liverpool does. So it would be natural if we had slightly fewer chances. You know what I mean? I don't know if ours were as good as theirs.
No, I don't think so.
I think a big thing as well is the familiarity of Manchester City. If we played that exact game against Bayern Munich or PSG and we lose 3-1 and we have the chances we have, we'd come away, bulk of our fans I think would come away and go, you know what, we had a good game there, we were right in it, we were just unlucky. But then those two teams aren't as good as Man City, but it's hard for us to accept that in a way because we're familiar with Man City. We play them every year, and we used to beat them every year. And I think now it's hard for our fans, Everton fans, to accept that Man City are on this other planet than the rest of the league, because even when they were winning leagues in their early years of being rich, basically, they still couldn't beat us. We were their bogey team. And I don't think anyone now, still believes we should be their bogey team. But I think they don't get the level of respect from us that they probably do off everyone else, because we didn't show them the respect for so long. We didn't care. We went and took the game to them. We beat them regularly. We beat them with Pep Guardiola. We put Pep Guardiola's biggest career defeat, I think, is still that 4-0 at Goodison Park. So where's teams with more exotic names? If we play that exact same game against, I think a lot of supporters who were angry at the weekend would be a lot more accepting of than they are with Man City, because they're more familiar with them. But this really is possibly it is the best ever Premier League side ever, and I think the best side in the world. And we were unlucky. I think I think the likes of Watford and that are probably thinking, God, wish we could, but Watford would have swapped with us. You know what I mean? I know that's going to come off as like, well, we're bigger than Watford. Yes, we are, but Man City is still that good. That's how good they are. They can do things like that to other Premier League teams. I'm just not angry about the performance of the team. I feel like they gave a good showing of themselves and I think we deserved a draw. The first 15-20 minutes notwithstanding, where we were absolutely battered, as you touched on. But after that, I thought we were right in it.
A couple of things. I'm always one of those people who thinks that the better teams tend to be luckier. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to go ahead and say, I do think when we become a better team, when we start developing the mentality and start winning these gritty games, the ones where our chances are equal with the other team, once we start coming out of those, it's going to change our mentality. We're just going to become a better team, and we're going to be luckier. Because I think luck is usually a direct result of having more or better chances. You know what I mean? That's just the way it works for me. However, I do want to point out additionally, for the people that are saying, you know what, we didn't do too poorly on Saturday, none of them are celebrating this loss. None of them. Not one person is like going out and like having pints because they're happy we only lost 3-1. None of them are celebrating it. Everybody's still a little annoyed we lost. You know what I mean? Nobody's like sitting there, ready to do their videos, talking about how badass we are because we lost 3-1. Nobody's doing that. And for some reason, I think for some people, it's a very black and white issue. It's either you don't accept mediocrity or you do. For some people, it's one or the other. You know what I mean? And for some people, it's it's a very cutthroat thing. And there's not as much of a gray area. And for some people, I think it's simpler for them to live that way. It's easier. This is the way I feel, and that's the way it is, and I made my mind up about it, and there you go. And if you don't agree, I'm sorry, I think you're wrong. You know what I mean? That's cool. I'm not going to say that particular way of living or thinking and making decisions is wrong, just because it's not the way I do it.
I think some of the shouts on Twitter after the game of they were there for the taking. Dear me. So people saying, they had Fernandinho at centre back and they had Gabriel Jesus starting a strike. These are ridiculously good players. Fernandinho has been one of the top midfielders in the league for a few seasons now. Just because he's playing centre back, that doesn't mean he's there for the taking. He's a professional player at the end of the day. He can go from central defensive midfield to centre back. And people saying, "Oh, this was our opportunity to beat Manchester City." Gabriel Jesus is a ridiculously high quality player, and then they bring on Bernardo Silva and Aguero. It's not like these players were out completely.
Oh, and David Silva as well.
And it's not like they were playing a team of youth players and they didn't have Edison in goal and they had they were playing Scott Carson in goal. At the end of the day, this was still a ridiculously good team that they fielded, and the people saying that they were there for the taking or it was a poor team they fielded, I'd take that team every single day of the week. I'd happily put Fernandinho at centre back at our rate at the moment. And people saying Zinchenko is not a good enough left back. He's not a high quality left back, don't get me wrong, but he's still a very good player. It's not like he's going to play in this team. It's not like Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta are going to go themselves. He's not good enough, but we'll still put him in the team. He's still a very good player. And Otamendi, probably the most questionable out of the team. He made that dodgy challenge when he was exposed on the halfway line and everything, but that was still a very good side that we came up against. Okay, it's not their best. It's not like prime Vincent Kompany was playing at the back. It's not like Aguero was up top. That was still a very good team who would beat any side in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I also want to be very clear too. I want to make it clear that I'm saying I had hope in that game. Beginning I didn't because we looked like shit. But there was a point in which I had some hope, which was nice. Now some would say the hope kills you. Yeah, it kind of does. But at the same time, I'd rather have hope and possibly some form of belief of any kind rather than flat out watching a game like we've watched, against the Sheffield United match. Okay? That was uninspiring, bland. No. That's the only thing I can say to that is no. But this, at least, there was a flicker there. A flicker of why I watch the sport. A flicker of why. You know what I mean? I like the flicker. I'd rather it be something bigger. You know what I mean? I'd rather it be stronger. But, I don't know.
That was my whole stance, really, was they were there for the taking and we should have beat the... We did what a lot of teams can't do. We made the chances. What are our players? What are our manager? What are they meant to do when Edison's playing a blinder? When you're making the chances? When you're having more shots on target against Man City than any other team recently? It's like you're doing what you're meant to be doing, but you can't legislate for the fact that their keeper might have a worldie. Basically, I just thought it was incredibly harsh to be so angry at the defeat, and as I say, I can't speak for everyone, but I do feel, just going off some of the responses I got for Twitter, it's just I think a lot of people were looking at it in the context of the whole season, which is a completely different issue. I can't really argue with that. That game doesn't make the other defeats against much weaker teams with much worse performances any better, but just in isolation, I thought people were being harsh about the City game.
Yeah, I mean, negative mojo spilling over. I do get that, and I think if we had gotten more points previously out of the rest of the season, I think the reaction would not have been so negative. But I don't know. It's a perspective check. You know what I mean? It's not the easiest thing, and I think you can look at both. So there was the whole thing. I think I saw where American Toffee podcast were the ones who retweeted. I think it was a Sky stat that they put out there that said that we got the most shots on target versus that Pep has faced since he's been managing 121 Premier League matches. So there were, we had chances. We did. You know what I mean? And our biggest problem in recent times has been not enough chances. I want to see how we do against Burnley, the ones who are going to pack back. That's what I want to see. I want to see what happens when we're not being attacked every 5 minutes to be able to go back at them quickly. I want to know what that's going to look like. And if I'm going to reserve some of my judgment because you can't just play okay football against the best and then crap football against the not as great teams and expect to have the season you want. It's not going to happen. So that's building on what both of you guys have said in recent times. Anything else on this, guys? Because, I mean, we could talk about quality performers and all this stuff, but I almost feel like the conversation itself is, how we're feeling after that. And the fact that our performance, if you isolate it, as you said, Terry, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Still a loss, though. So, you guys good?
Yeah, it's done. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. So, if you're digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We'd sincerely appreciate it. If you want more Thomas does social media for the Toffee Blues every once in a while. So if you see people commenting on the game, giving you play-by-play, live tweeting it, it's often Thomas's words. That's right. This is what the guy looks like. So, additionally, are you still doing some work for the Toffee Blues website?
Yeah, I do the
Content?
player ratings normally after the match. So if you see me rambling on there, that's normally me.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. So keep an eye on his Twitter. He'll tell you about when and where for all that stuff. And also, if you want Terry, want him. If you want more Terry, check out Liverpool Echo Fan Gerry, where he'll be, tossing his Everton words. He'll be vomiting his Everton words up on there. Just, it's a lot like that lately. And if you just remember, he's a big hugger. Make it happen. That's all we got. Next segment, we're going to be talking about Marco Silva. So come back for that. And bye.